Thank you. Think about what you eat on a typical day. Now, and this, would you the same way if you had to source your own food each day? Perhaps not. Food philosopher and nutritionist Sherry Strong believes if we can't get a specific food from nature, then not only do we not need it, but it could be damaging to our health. This is known as the consumption concept. Please welcome Sherry to tell us more. Now, most of us, Sherry, good morning, most of us would be shopping at the supermarket during the week or every week. How difficult with us shopping at the supermarket is to indulge in this consumption concept?
Well, the concept is simple, as I was saying before, but it's not necessarily the easiest route. But we all know the easiest route is not necessarily the healthiest or the best for us.
So can you just explain the concept?
Yeah, it's basically, if you think about it, from the point of nature, nature actually tells us what we're meant to be eating and the quantities we're meant to be eating and by how easily it's obtained in nature. So that which is most abundant in nature, we're meant to have the most of. Really simple.
What if you live somewhere desolate where there's not much at all?
Well, that's, if you actually look at even the Inuits in, say, the northern pole, right, okay, they ate very simply, but they ate what was within their surroundings. Not exactly where I want to live. You know, the Mediterranean's more my kind of thing, but that's why there are more people in the Mediterranean.
How do you adapt that, though, to living in a city, in the middle of a city?
Well, the simple thing is things like farmers markets, which are sensational. They're probably the best way for us to know what's actually in season. So looking at what's in season, you can get organic there, which again is going to be closer to nature, biodynamic even more closer to nature. So it is a change. There absolutely is a shift that's actually happening globally, and that's, you know, one of the whole things about the consumption concept. It doesn't just relate to food, it relates to everything, and the further we've deviated from nature, the less healthy we've become, and the planet's become less healthy.
What are some of the benefits of following this plan?
Well, oh goodness, well, personally myself, just by actually following these philosophies, nature's principle, the consumption concept, the lethal recipe, removing the lethal recipe from my diet.
What's the lethal recipe?
Ah, okay. Well, there's 5 things that are universally in foods that are made in the same way we actually take poppy sap and turn it into heroin. I mean, not me personally, but you know. You know. And what happens is it has a similar effect on the body. And in fact, Scripps Institute has done a 4-year study to show us that refined sugar has the same effect on your body as heroin and cocaine.
Yeah, it's bad stuff. I think we know that.
The documentary Super Size Me proved that, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's really addictive.
And he didn't even go into the chemical side of things. So if you took those 5 things out of the supermarket, you barely have a handful of things left you could actually... And the 5 things being refined sugars, refined oils, refined salts, refined grains, and chemicals, which are mostly refined. Okay, so they're in almost all our foods, and they have a toxic effect on the body. And we're seeing that because the countries that have this lethal recipe have the most, you know, they have the greatest increase in lifestyle diseases, and there's a direct correlation.
Does this country have the lethal recipe in most things at the supermarket?
Absolutely. And as I was getting back to the benefits, is by actually removing that from your diet, I've managed to half my size. But more than actually having their size, because there's a lot of people who go on diets and they lose weight and the skin kind of sags and they look a bit older and they have less energy. By following nature's principle and actually eating what is most abundant in nature and avoiding that which does not exist in nature, you wake up with this incredible feeling of energy, well-being.
Now you've got me.
Yeah, we like that.
And that's the key, you know. I was just actually talking to Tom in the green room. He was talking about something he had for dinner late last night, and I said, you probably woke up with a food hangover, and he goes, yeah, you're right.
So what's your typical diet across the day then? What would you have breakfast, lunch and dinner?
Goodness, it varies. But I do actually start off with a green smoothie, so with lots of super greens in it, because green is the most abundant thing. So if you think in nature, what is most abundant nutrient we're life dependent on? It's air. Air's everywhere. Second most abundant nutrient we're life dependent on is water, 70% of the planet. Third most abundant nutrient on the planet is what color?
Green.
Green. Okay, so green.
I knew you were going to say green. You were going to say green. No, hey, Sherry, just quickly, I got back from Japan a month ago. I took my girls over there to see my mum's country. All the fruit was imported from the Philippines or Thailand or Australia because it was winter and there was nothing there. So are you saying we shouldn't eat in that way?
I try not to shoot on anyone, okay?
Yeah,
so it's basically it's not something that I'm suggesting all of us need to go out into the woods and start eating leaves and trees, right? Okay, hunting and gathering.
I wasn't
not necessarily.
into that.
Yeah, I don't like foraging.
No.
I'm not a good forager myself. No. And I couldn't kill anything to actually eat it. So you know,
Blair Witch Project was too scary.
It was
in the forest by yourself.
It was. I didn't notice they had a decent meal in that show. Okay, so like my background's as a chef, and I am a food lover. My cooking school was called the Food Lovers Workshop, so I love good tasting food, and I promise you, I have not compromised flavor in what I'm doing. But it's basically, if you have a peach right now, and peaches I've found right now are in season, they're a good season for peaches on top of it. You eat that, and it's so delicious. I had one actually for breakfast this morning, and if you're present and you're actually eating it, you're getting tons of nutrients in there, and it is so delicious. And people ask me, what's your favorite food? And I say, well, it depends what season it is, you know, because it varies throughout the year, and that's the whole thing, is that the seasonality us an excitement looking towards, like Maggie's talking about figs later on, you know. It gave us something to look forward to, and we didn't have this, no diet on the planet was meant to have the exact same thing 365 days a year.
It's true. A food could be so exciting if you're mindful about it. I think that's an important message. Please thank Sherry Strong for coming in and sharing her concept. If you'd like to see more of Sherry, very interesting stuff, head over to the World Wellness Project. Kicks off in Melbourne next week. Next up on The Circle, the Sydney gal who taught herself to cook and who now writes, produces and appears in my dreams.